would listen to your podcast, and it really helped bring me out of a dark time. It made me see, okay, here's other human beings just like me, doing bold things, following their dreams, making changes, falling down, getting back up again. Why can't I do that?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome to the Bold Moves How Did You Know podcast, a podcast for the naturally curious who want to define their own path. I'm your host, Kristen Rocco, and here I'm sharing bold move stories that propelled my guests from curiosity to action. And in doing so, they've created a life that is purposeful to them. Through these stories, I hope you'll be inspired to pursue your boldest dreams. Today is so special because if you are watching on video, you can see that I'm here in person live with one of my closest friends, Jenna Kolodziejczak. I am bringing her on the podcast today because she has the most amazing bold move story. And so it's a process episode to show everybody that you have just literally gone through the entire bold moves recipe to get to this dream job. And I really thought that Jenna could come on today and share her story with you all to know that it's not just for other people, it's for me and you and Jenna and just everyone who wants something and has the fortitude to go out and get it can get what they want. And so I think Jenna's story today is going to really highlight that for you. But let me do a quick introduction. Jenna is one of my closest friends. I think we met like 7 or 8 years ago, and then in 2019, I actually ended up becoming Jenna's neighbor. And so we've been having kind of what I'm gonna call a home improvement type of relationship over the last 5 years, where we see each other out our windows, we get to hang out in each other's patios, and, you know, we have a really deep girlfriend relationship where we talk about friendships, we talk about the bold moves we're making, we talk about career, we talk about our frustrations and our fears and our failures, and we talk about getting back up again and trying to keep chasing our dreams. And so I just can't wait to bring Jenna's story to life for you all. It really is one of resilience and grit and determination and hope and trust and optimism. So much more that we'll all get into today, but it's a really fun thing for me to have you sitting right beside me because this is what we do. This is kind of our daily life. And I thought, well, rather than doing it through the remote interview, it'd be cool to see if I can figure out how to do this in person. So we'll give this our first attempt. Anyways, hello, Jenna. Welcome to the Bold Moves podcast.
Hello, Kristen. Thank you so much for that kind introduction. That was very sweet, and I'm very happy to be here and giving this in-person episode a first go.
I know it's a little intimidating. Tell me, is sitting here in this seat a bold move for you?
Yes, I think 2025 has been a year of bold moves for me, and so when you asked, I just had to say yes, because why not? In the spirit of doing all things bold, just keep continuing through with that. I'm trying to not look at the video recording us and just pretending it's not happening.
We're just here having a conversation.
Yeah, just talking like we normally do all the time.
Casual conversation. Well, and one more thing before we launch into today. I think this is a really important episode for me because it means that I get to celebrate you. And you are one of my closest friends, and I am so proud of everything I've seen you go through over the 5 years of living right next door to you, being there with you in a way, and just seeing all the ups and downs and how you really have overcome so much to get to where you are today. It makes me, as your friend, so proud for you, and I just want to be able to celebrate your hard work. Let's get into it. I'm sure everybody is like, okay, well, what is her story? So let's start at the beginning. And I like to categorize your life in these 2 phases: before twins, BT, and after twins, AT, right? So Jenna had 2 beautiful baby boys who are now 5. So 5 years ago, you had these twin boys.
Going on 6.
And it completely shook up your world. And that was your sort of, that was the transition point into this new life, and then you had to reinvent yourself. So let's talk about life before twins. What what were you doing? What was your life looking like?
Sure. Life BT, I guess, would be just working really hard, driven. I worked at a salon, a very successful salon in Atlanta, and loved my job there. And my plan was to just kind of move up the ladder and also join the education team. And I was really looking forward to all of that. And I suppose me and my husband just worked hard and kind of played hard. We were really into traveling, planning a big trip or two every year, experiencing new things, new cultures, and running a lot of races, and doing all athletic things, and just hanging out with our friends. So we were just working hard but really enjoying our lives.
And then you decided you wanted to start a family. I'm sure there were some discussions about wanting to be a mom, and you guys decided to go down that path. And you got pregnant. And tell me, like, I'm sure that was a really exciting time. What were the emotions?
It was very exciting. The twins thing was a big surprise, so kind of a shock, but very, very thrilled, very excited for that adventure, and couldn't wait to see what came with it.
Yeah. Okay, and then what did come with it
gosh.
Yeah. Go ahead.
What came with it was just a big change of life. Just kind of your road was planning on going one way, and you kind of just we had to veer a completely different path and make a new path.
Yeah, because the boys were born early. I guess it's common knowledge among twin parents that typically twins are born before the 40-week date.
Yes.
And there was a period of time before that where you were on bed rest and...
Yes, I went on bed rest around 22 weeks, at first at home and then in the hospital, and was there. I went into preterm labor at 22 weeks and 24 weeks, and the wonderful doctors were able to stop the labor and keep my baby safe. Yeah. But we were really trying to hit the goal of making it to 28 weeks in the hospital, but we ended up only making it to 26.
Okay.
Because I went into preterm labor again, and unfortunately we had to give birth that day.
So early, unexpected to say the least, right? And then what happened from there?
Sure, yes, it was early and unexpected. We didn't really ever think that could happen or be an option. Definitely were not prepared, and going into the pregnancy, I was in the best shape of my life. I was so healthy and strong and feeling so capable and confident, and when I realized that my body couldn't hold the pregnancy any longer, it was very tough.
The boys were born 14 weeks early.
Yes.
And what did that mean?
They were born at 26 weeks. That meant that their chance of survival, I believe, gosh, I want to guess it was around maybe like 30%, somewhere between 30 and 60%.
Oh my God. Wow. That must have been a terrifying time for you.
It was. We, at 22 weeks, were basically told they wouldn't survive if they were born. 24 weeks, slightly better chance. 26 weeks, they probably would make it, but no guarantees.
Okay. So, needless to say, they didn't go home 2 days after you gave birth.
Yes, you're correct. We were in the NICU for about 6 months.
And what is the NICU, and what is the experience being there?
Yeah, the NICU, the neonatal intensive care unit there at the hospital for little babies. And yes, they started off on the very intensive care floor for many, many months, and then they finally graduated to less intensive care there toward the end. But the boys were separated in different pods away from each other. So I would go every day and visit them, spend a couple hours with one boy in one pod, and then move on to the next one. So
you would be in the hospital for like 10 hours a day, every day for 6 months.
Yes, I wanted to do everything I could to support them and help them, and I was pumping and just trying to give them all the love I could. I did, at the time, stop my career. I gave up my career and stopped working just because I felt like I had to. I needed to be there with my boys to make sure that they were getting the best care they could with the nurses there, and then me being there to help out too. Yeah. And then my wonderful husband would go every night after work on his way home from work for a couple hours. So we were both there a lot.
So a real just trying time is probably a good way to put it. Where
Yes. You know, you give up your career, everything you've worked hard for, everything you had planned for yourself down the road, and kind of just stop focusing on yourself and just only focus on your babies.
while you were in the NICU, you came to understand, I believe, that the nurses were just so amazing. And you saw miracles in action every day, I'm sure, helping these babies continue their life, right? Because, right, some babies in the NICU, this is life-threatening situations, right?
Yes.
And so you're seeing these nurses and doctors on a continuous basis really care for these babies to hope to give them the best chance at life possible. What did seeing that in action mean to you, or what impact did that have on you?
Gosh, I would say just everything. NICU nurses, they love their jobs, they love their patients, they love the families they're helping, and it's so easy and clear to see how much they love the job that they have and the babies they're taking care of. And they were a very strong support system for me and my family.
Yeah.
And they loved my boys. They took care of them like they were their own, and it was very inspiring to watch. And a lot of the nurses became like family, and I cannot thank them enough for all the care they gave my babies. And I really think that their care and the doctor's care really made a huge difference for the outcome that they received once they were discharged.
So in addition to the doctors and the nurses, and then of course all the physician's assistants and those rotating on the care team, you also joined a support group while you were there. What was that about?
I did. Oh gosh, joining the support group was huge for me. I met one of my best friends there and bonded with her, and we were able to kind of, I guess, keep each other sane and make it through the whole stay at the NICU. But being able to meet people who are going through a similar situation as you makes you feel supported, heard, understood, and building connections with these people, so invaluable. And I think it's just a really important thing when you're going through a dark times to have people who understand to talk to.
Yeah, it's a little different than, I mean, the nurses and the caretakers are so amazing. They know medically everything to do, but I'm sure like having that person who has stood in your shoes or is standing in your shoes and can relate to the emotions you're going through. What, when you were in the support group, what did it make you think about a need within that care team?
That it would be nice to have other parents to talk to that have been through this situation, that can relate and be a shoulder to lean on, that understands.
You got to take the boys home eventually. Tell
Yes.
us about.
Eventually we did. We got to go home December 22nd, 2019. The nurses worked super hard to get us home before Christmas. They were trying so hard, and it worked out. So we got to go home right before the holiday, which was a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But we came home with lots of medical equipment, and no matter how many hours you spend in the hospital working with the nurses to learn how to work and do somewhat like nursing tasks, if you're not a nurse, it's really hard. I was never very good at anything nursing, not really my forte, so I had to learn things that I never thought I would have to learn, never thought I would have to do. Gosh, but running medical equipment through the night, also getting up to pump every couple hours, changing out the boys' feeding tubes. Their feeds would only be able to go for a couple hours, so you'd have to change out the milk. And one of my sons was on oxygen support, so he had a machine that would beep a lot, and you would do your best to, well, A, make sure that he's breathing well and everything's fine, but also
beep
gosh,
a lot.
it beeped a lot. Yes.
Okay.
So for any parents out there that go home with kids with special needs, it is a hard, daunting thing.
Yeah.
And you all are superheroes.
You know, it's like survival mode, because there's so many things that you don't know, and you're learning on the job, while also trying to like have these two babies. I mean, not only one, but two, where they're crying and they're needing to pee and poop and sleep all at different hours, I'm sure. So it's a lot. How many years would you say you were in the survival mode?
Yes, multiples are not easy. I think survival mode kind of hit immediately when the boys were born, even in the NICU, just going there every day, being there for them, and just slowly forgetting about yourself and taking care of yourself, because you're putting everything into other humans to support and love them. And just even when they came home, it was still survival mode, I guess, even harder now, because now the nurses aren't there, and the lack of sleep for me and both my husband was probably for about a year and a half. And running all that medical equipment, and also taking the boys to quite a lot of specialists and doctor's appointments, therapies, for 2 kids. So it was a lot, and slowly over time the survival mode kind of kicked into I'm not really even taking care or focusing on myself anymore. Just kind of like a shell of myself, and just doing the best I can to keep my kids progressing and doing well.
And I know that became a lot eventually to feel this departure of who Jenna was at one point, after you were through the survival mode. And I mean, there's only so long you can exist like that before you start to be like, oh my gosh, my whole life is in turmoil. Is that how it felt? Like my whole life is in turmoil?
Absolutely. I don't think I realized it for a long time. I was kind of in denial. But yes, just survival mode, forgetting about yourself, forgetting who you are, what you like to do, what you should be doing, and just focusing on your kids, and really just forgetting to take care of yourself at all, which of course is a horrible thing to do. And the time it seems like the right thing to do. I'm putting everything into my kids. It's going to be okay. We're going to make it. But when you're not taking care of yourself, you kind of run out of steam eventually. You hit a brick wall, and you don't have anything left.
Yeah. When you hit that brick wall, what did you feel inside? Like, what were some of the emotions? And I ask you that because some of the listeners, I'm sure, can relate, whether it's parenting or whatever else the scenario might be, but just forgetting to check in with themselves. What did that brick wall feel like for you when you eventually acknowledged, oh my gosh,
right?
My whole life is turned upside down.
Well, I think the fact of just not acknowledging it for a long time and just kind of running out of energy and just hitting the brick wall, it almost just felt like there were no emotions left. It's like I'd been through every emotion, the anger, the guilt, the sadness. In my case, I felt personally guilty that it was my fault that the boys were born, and my fault that they had special needs, and my fault they were born with difficulties because my body gave out. And over time, logically, after talking to people, you realize that doesn't really make sense. You did everything there wasn't anything you could have done differently, but you still feel the guilt. And so I think once I hit that brick wall and sitting and talking to my amazing, wonderful husband, John, I love you. You're the best. Such a supportive human, and took care of the boys just as well, if not better than me, and gave them so much time too, while also working a full job. Yeah. But just kind of hitting that brick wall, having nothing left, kind of turning into like a dark place, which was something I never really experienced before. And thankfully my sister kind of realized it and was able to tell me like, hey, you need to go see a therapist, which was something I'd never done before. And so I did that, and thank goodness for that.
Yeah, I'm sure it was intimidating, but you probably knew in your gut that was the next step that you needed. Okay, so you ended up going to therapy to address the emptiness inside. Was it empty? What was the feeling?
I guess emptiness, not feeling like myself anymore, but mainly the guilt.
Okay, mainly the guilt is where it started, and that was like, I need to get over not over. As if there's anything I've learned about making bold moves, you can't skip the intensity of the uncertainty or the feelings or the whatever you do have to go through. So you went through, you were going to address the guilt and try to figure out, okay, I've got to deal with this, and what does that look like?
I didn't even realize what I went through was trauma.
What an interesting point. It didn't even occur to you that it was a traumatic situation.
Nope. So sitting with my therapist and learning what I went through was trauma, and it was a pretty serious thing, and also realizing that I had a bit of PTSD from the whole situation, just everything we went through. It was very eye-opening and a chance, and helped to heal and move forward. I spent about a year and a half in therapy.
So when you were in the when you were in therapy and you were navigating all of those emotions and feelings and trying to figure out how to move through the guilt, when and how did you realize that you were ready for reclaiming your identity? And maybe not even the person you were, but the next evolution of Jenna. How did that realization come to you?
I think it was just slowly over time, once I started getting help and realizing that I needed to take care of myself again. I would say, like, slowly over time, bits and pieces of me would come back. I was home with the boys for about 4 years, so I would say over that 4-year period, it went from me being a shell of myself to slowly making my way back and getting my self-confidence back and feeling like I was ready to do things for myself again, working out, seeing friends, doing fun things. As the boys slowly started doing better, having less doctor's appointments, therapy appointments, kind of weaning off oxygen and using the feeding tubes less and less, like pieces of me started coming back, if that makes sense. Like the weights of things that were going on with the boys that were very difficult and hard, as they got easier, I started to reemerge, I would say.
I never asked this question in this way before, but your story's making me think of it. When you were able to just be like, I just want to have a good girls' night. I just want to go have some fun, have girlfriend conversations that don't include talking about parenting or the boys' situation. Did that help bring more creativity into your life?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. When I finally felt well enough to do things like that, or felt like I could leave the boys, for a while there, we kind of just hid at home and didn't see people. The boys came home right before COVID hit, and our doctors recommended, because of their lung issues, that we just quarantine, shelter in place, and not really see people, which...
Yes, that's right. It was right in the middle of COVID when all this was happening. Yeah.
They came home in end of December.
So hard.
And then I think February, March is when it hit, and so we're like, okay, well, we have these 2 babies at home, and we're barely sleeping, and we're trying to do all this. John's trying to work, and we need help, but we couldn't have help because of the worry of the boys' lungs not being able to handle COVID.
So that was like another grueling 2 years, whereas like maybe after 6 more months in the house, you could have started to do some normal-ish things, but now it was like complete lockdown for another couple of years.
Yes, complete lockdown. And I think what that did to me was it made me feel kind of like the lockdown was more normal over time, as COVID kind of
I see.
de-escalated and people started going back to their lives. But I think we were so used to just doing things on our own. We couldn't ask for help, and it came to a point where we could have been asking for help, and we just A, didn't know how, and B, didn't feel like maybe family members or friends could maybe handle the situation. So we just chose to maybe just stay home more and kind of hide away from the world. And slowly, as I started to heal and feel better and feel like, okay, I can go out with my friends. Yes, I didn't want to talk about the boys. I just wanted to talk to my friends and see what was going on with them. And that slowly brought my confidence back, re-entering the world, being social, smiling, being happy, and taking care of myself again, allowed me to feel ready to sit and think like, oh, what does Jenna like to do?
When you asked that question to yourself, what answer came?
Oh gosh, when I was going through all of that, I don't think I even knew anymore, because like you had mentioned earlier, I kind of had changed. I wasn't the older version of myself anymore. So I'd be like, oh gosh, I used to love doing this. Do I still like doing this? I'm not really sure. So I had to kind of take
a lot of
time
exploring
to figure it out again.
Okay.
So which was interesting.
Yeah. So there was the exploration period, which gets into the desire part of the Bold Moves recipe, right? You're always coming back around to that in every new version or chapter or bold move that you're making. It's like, let me take a minute to see how this fits. It's kind of like putting on a dress. You're like, does this fit just right? Or do I want to take it off and put on something else that might fit a little bit better? So you did that. And let's fast forward then to 4 years was it about 4 years when the boys went off to pre-K, yeah?
Yes, 4 years. That was a big deal. The therapists and their doctors, we were thinking about holding them back a little bit and just waiting a year longer, but they said, you know what, give it a shot.
Let's try it. So
we gave it a shot, and the boys did great. So it was the best decision.
Okay. And so they were off at school now from what? Like 8 in the morning till 2:30.
Yeah, like 7:30 to 2. Yeah,
That's a lot of hours
it
of free
was.
Jenna time.
Oh gosh, it was so great. Just and I think early on when they started going to pre-K was like the kind of the end of my healing. You know, resting, taking care of myself, and figuring out what I wanted to. Like, what was my desire now?
So what was it?
Well, before the boys, again, I wanted to move up at my salon and do incredible things there.
Yeah.
And, you know, I looked into going back to work and I just was like, oh my gosh, like, my boys, they wear me out. They're a lot. They have a lot of energy. Lots of them there.
I can attest. They do have a lot of energy.
And I was thinking, I don't know if I can stand all day. I don't know if I can do that anymore and talk to people all day long. I used to give a lot of myself to my clients, and now I'm giving it to my kids. And
I know how that is, because when I sit in the hairdresser's chair, don't think I'm not the one who's talking all about my day and what's coming up and what and my friends and all of this kind of, I'm that person. So having to do that like 6-7 hours a day, that's a lot of energy that you're giving to other people. I get it.
It can be a little draining, especially if you're not like a huge extrovert. But yes, I thought I made a good decision. I said, I can't give all of myself to my clients and my kids. I have to start giving some of myself back to me. So, okay, like what else can I do? I need to get out of the house and I need to find a job and where I'm not a caretaker and not thinking about medical things. And I just need to kind of give my brain a break. And also, I felt like my brain had kind of turned into mush being home for that long. So I was really just excited to think about anything else.
Giving yourself permission to even explore what could come next, what does the next step look like, is where you started. And this is really kind of interesting, divine timing. I don't know. But I started the podcast in 2023, very close to when the boys were going to pre-K for the first time. And you started to listen to the podcast as a dedicated friend, supportive, like in my, moments where I'm like, is anybody going to listen to this podcast? At least I know that Jenna was listening.
And many other people.
So you started to hear more stories of people who were making bold moves. How did that impact you?
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. So when the boys went to kindergarten, for a couple of months there, I would just, sit at home and clean, put laundry away, cook, get everything, tidied up in the house, and I would listen to your podcast. And it really helped bring me out of a dark time. It made me see, okay, here's other human beings just like me, doing bold things, following their dreams, making changes, falling down, getting back up again. Why can't I do that? And so, everyone, Kristen's podcast, huge inspiration for me, really gave me a kick in the butt, got me thinking like, okay, come on, Jenna, you got to get up, you got to do this, you got to move forward, you got to take control of your life.
That's a pivotal moment. And has now propelled you into this transformation, which I think even you were shocked about, right? So, all right, so we knew we wanted a job. You wanted a job, but you didn't want any sort of caretaking responsibilities with the job or medical, because you were already having to do that for the boys. And you wanted to like use your brain in a different way, right?
A professional way.
Okay, so you knew that was the next step for you. And then I'm sure you were like, okay, well, how do I? This is the premise of the podcast.
What do I do?
Like, how do I get that next thing?
Yes, and conveniently, your podcast was already teaching me this, so it was in the back of my mind. One of the episodes I'll never forget was your guest who talked about if you have a recurring thought that keeps popping into your brain over time, that means you are capable and you can do it. And a thought that I've been having ever since we got discharged from the NICU was, I want to make a difference. I want to help other families like us in the NICU that are going through a tough time. I want to be there for those people. And so that was something that kept popping into my head. But at that time, I wasn't quite ready to take that on, just with everything with my own family and my kids. And so it would pop into my head and I'd push it away. Pop into head, push it away.
Or save it for later.
Yes,
save it for later. And I think that's cool for people to hear, because sometimes things and thoughts come into your brain. You know you need to do something with it. it just might not be the right time. So you didn't ignore it. You saved it for later.
I saved it for later. I think everyone has reoccurring thoughts, and I think a lot of us save them for later. And I'm here to tell you, accept the thought and marinate on it. Think about it. Because
maybe
clearly
journal.
it's important to you.
Yeah, maybe journal about it and just like don't let it drown, but like say, okay, I'm gonna readdress this in another couple of months.
Yes. And so when I was ready to work again, I tried to find a way to see if a job like that exists, like helping the families in the NICU. And it did, but in more of a nurse fashion.
So you had to have a nursing degree.
Yes. And so that, I would have loved to have been a nurse, but I felt like I might be a little, maybe past my prime for that when you go back to school. So, so gosh, I was really disappointed. I spent a lot of time looking and talking to people and was like, okay, so this path, my reoccurring thought, my new passion of helping other NICU families, like I am not going to be able to accomplish this in a career setting. Gosh, what am I going to do? And thankfully, I spoke to a wonderful connection that I had made through doing some volunteering, and she told me, as well as my husband, who told me the same thing, if you can't do what you want to do in a career, why don't you find another way to do it? And this light bulb went off in my head, and I thought, oh gosh, okay, if I can't do this as a job, how else can I do this? And so my friend had recommended that I just start volunteering. And so that's what I did. I started volunteering at the NICU and preemie parent mentor and just doing some public speaking, fundraising and things like that, and meeting great people and
meeting a lot of influential people within these hospitals and these NICU departments, right?
Yes, meeting so many wonderful people that, gosh, they just helped me, I guess, find my path. They led me to the volunteering. I started doing that, and I love it so much, and it made me so happy. And I think because I was volunteering and fulfilling that passion that way, I was ready to kind of just go back to work in a different way.
So you ended up getting another professional job, and you gained great skills while you were there. And I'm just thinking, my brain is lighting up because I'm thinking, those skills also are transferable into what eventually ended up as your dream job, but you did end up getting a professional job. What did the new job mean to you?
Okay, so the first, I've used the Bold Moves recipe twice in my life so far. I'm sure I'll be using it many more times, but the first time I used it, it was so helpful. I really don't know if I would have even gone back to work without knowing the recipe, but my desire was to go back to work in a professional setting, to work somewhere that I felt had a good message and was helping people. And I had responded to a post on social media.
Friends post.
Right? Yes. And she had mentioned that she needed some help. And so I responded to her. I honestly almost didn't because the fear set in. It's like, oh gosh.
Oh, really?
I haven't worked in 4 years. I did hair before.
How is this gonna translate?
Exactly. I worked in business before hair, but that's another story. So I was nervous. I'm like, oh gosh, my self-worth wasn't, my confidence was still not as great as it had been. And so I reached out to her, and yes, she hired me, and gosh, it did so much for my self-esteem and my self-confidence. And I worked with a lovely team of women who really all supported each other and helped each other, and it was such a positive experience. I had to learn a bunch of new things that I'd never done before.
You're like, I have to do what?
It's like, okay, I can do this. I'm gonna figure it out, and I did.
When you got in there and you knew that you were contributing value on a day-to-day basis, how did that make you feel? What did that mean for you?
I think that was like the end of my evolution, becoming a new version of myself, I suppose. So the volunteering, fulfilling my passion, joy there, and then also going back to work and feeling capable and doing good work and working with great people and a boss who I just adored. It, oh gosh, it just, I think, completed the evolution. Like, here I am, I'm a full piece of myself again. I'm coming back together.
We put Jenna back together again.
Yeah, all the body parts are back in place.
So if you break down the Bold Moves recipe just really quickly on this first bold move of getting back into the work world, the desire piece we already talked about. Who is the second piece of the Bold Moves recipe. So what would you attribute to who? What was the who part for you in the first Bold?
I guess just knowing a wonderful person who needed help. I guess just seeing the post on social media and taking the choice to just try to reach out to her. And just take a leap of faith and give it a shot.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then the third part is the action.
Mm-hmm.
So what was action?
Yes, just reaching out to her and having a call with her and it going well, and I guess just getting hired.
And pushing past all of that fear that was probably coming into your head and saying, I can't do it, but and then overriding the fear and saying, I can do it, and continue to take the next step when it came to you and not just give up.
Exactly, yes. Yeah. Just full steam ahead, do my best, and try as hard as I can to make it happen.
So eventually, you had been working in your bridge job, where I call it that now, because the dream job was just hiding around the corner.
Yes, I'm gonna call it a huge stepping stone job.
Yes,
I guess.
Yes.
Or experience or life experience.
Yeah. So what happened? What's the dream job and what happened?
Right. So again, the recurring thought of, oh gosh, I feel like I could be helping other NICU families more. I feel like I have more to give, and still going and volunteering and helping, but leaving and feeling like, gosh, I feel like I have a little bit more to offer here. And as we spoke earlier, thankfully through the volunteering and different things I did, I was able to meet so many wonderful people.
Yeah. And
I was talking to a connection of mine, and she mentioned that a job was coming available, and would I be interested and
what type of job?
Supporting NICU families.
No nursing degree required.
Correct.
This is the first time you had seen that type of job.
Yes. Okay. Like in my area, yes.
Okay. So somebody reached out to you that you had met, your who.
Yes.
Reached out to you, you had met. She said, I think you should apply for this job, Jenna. You were like...
Yes, I was like, hold the front door. Like, this is exactly what I wanted. And then it was there. And so I just dropped everything. I finished working that day. I put the kids to sleep, and I called you and a couple of my other dear friends, and I said, okay, so the job of my dreams, it's there now, and I really, really want it. So I need to make sure I apply tomorrow. Yeah. Because the job's been open out there for a little while. I need to apply tomorrow. So I spent the whole night just retooling the resume and cover letter and getting that all sent off with help from a lot of my friends.
And then you sent off the resume, of course, through the normal process, but how did you use your who's?
Yes.
After that?
Yes, your who's. This was great knowledge that I got from your podcast. I think back in the day, I just would have applied and just waited and see what happened. Fingers crossed. Yeah. Which, I had tried before I got my stepping stone job that brought me back into the workforce and made me feel great about myself again. I had tried applying for some other jobs at another hospital, not in a NICU capacity, but just helping patients and families. And I didn't know anyone working there, and I applied. I think you know this because you helped me. I applied 7 times, and I never heard anything, just crickets. And so that was hard to get back up from that. But I at least had gotten my resume ready.
Yes.
So when the dream job came, I didn't have to do a complete overhaul, which was great.
Well then, so you applied, but then what happened?
Oh yes,
we forgot the who's. We forgot to talk about the
who. Such an important part. And I want to say that one of your guests said that 83% of jobs come
A lot of jobs.
A lot of jobs.
Majority of jobs.
Okay, right. It's kind of an eye-opening fact. So yes, I reached out to some more of the contacts that I had made through volunteering and speaking and things like that, and just let them know, hey, I'm very interested in this job. I'm applying. Here's my resume. Would love your feedback. And got some really kind messages from people, which made me feel great and really made me feel like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah. So they called you for an interview. Yeah. How did it feel to know that you were on the cusp of getting your dream job? It was right there.
just exciting, just something new, a change, and something that I had always hoped for but didn't think I could ever achieve.
Yeah.
So it was very, very exciting.
You went through a couple rounds of phone interviews. They invited you to come on site for a day there. And then they called you and said,
I got the job.
She got her dream job. And she starts a week from today.
Yes.
Which is this whole metamorphosis of like a new beginning. But not, and I think this is so important, not from happenstance, not from luck. This is dedicated effort. This is putting one step in front of the other constantly in the direction, and I always say this, in the direction of your goals and dreams. You started volunteering. You started speaking up for and advocating for NICU families. And you became a known parent within the community here in Atlanta. And that helped to open some doors. But it's not because you sat back on your couch watching TV. It's action. And that's the thing, guys. Like the Bold Moves recipe, it starts with your desire. We talked about that with Jenna a couple different times. And then it's like finding the who's that can be influential for you and help you get to where you need to go. But you also then have to take the action. And so sometimes the recipe isn't always linear. Sometimes it's kind of like, okay, it always starts with the desire. But then it can be like, oh, I'm going to go volunteer. That's an action. And then you meet the who, right? And that's kind of how it worked out for you.
Believe me, there were many times I just wanted to sit on the couch and not do anything. And if I hadn't been listening to your podcast, I honestly, who knows what would have happened.
I mean, they call it Netflix and chill for a reason. You know?
I did a lot of that, yes. But I was inspired by your guests and you and your community. And that is what got me up and going. So,
what would you say to the one person out there who is stuck, can identify with your story, maybe not all the circumstance, but they can identify with feeling like they found themselves one day in a situation they never intended, and they lost themselves. They were giving to everybody else and forgot to take care of themselves, and then woke up and felt like, oh my gosh, who am I? Where am I? What is happening? And it has to go through that process of rediscovery like you did. And then that rediscovery turns into that, okay, I am capable. It's like you got to empower yourself. I mean, I hope podcasts like this do help inspire and empower other people. But at the end of the day, you're the one doing the work. What would you say to that listener out there who is sitting, listening to us right now and really needs some words of encouragement to get going?
I would say, do it. If I can do it, anyone can do it. I think we've all been stuck at some point. We've all had trauma, been through a hard time, and lost parts of ourselves or almost all of ourselves, and just wake up one day and realize what happened, where did I go, where do I go from here, and continuing to just stay in that situation or kind of dig yourself out. And I think that everyone can dig yourself out. You just need to believe in yourself and have good friends and family around you to support you.
Yeah, that's so good. My last question for all of my guests, you know it? Now it's your turn to answer it. What do you know about being bold today you wish you would have known earlier on?
Well, I'd say when I was younger, I thought bold moves just were something you would accomplish by yourself. It was totally driven by you, and you did it. And as I've gotten older and more wise, I have realized that bold moves are not possible without help. And asking for help is a strong, bold, courageous thing to do. And I think that if you have a reoccurring thought of a desire, the boldest thing you can do is talk about it. Talk about it to your friends and family, and then it becomes real. And then if you're listening to Kristen's
Yes.
podcast, you're like, oh gosh, I'm going to see Kristen on Friday. Have I written down my 5 goals for the year? Or whatever, you're listening to.
And whoever your Kristen is for you.
Exactly.
But the point is, engage your friends,
Yes.
Have friends who are there to support you and encourage you and have these deeper conversations with, right?
Yes. I think everyone out there wants to support and help everyone. Like, everyone does. And even if you don't know that person well, you still would do anything to help if you could. And so speaking about what I wanted to do down the road and then sharing those feelings with other people and them acknowledging it. And then, you never know who they know, or you never know what they know. For instance, when my acquaintance through volunteering had told me, okay, well, if you can't do that as a job, maybe just go volunteer. Okay, so I hadn't thought of that one on my own. So, yes, talk to people, ask for help, and then your bold action can become real, I think.
It starts like illuminating what the action steps are. And you just keep going one step in front of the other. And shut those voices down that come in your head. Oh, I haven't done this I did hair for 10 years. How am I possibly going to do this? That's why I love your story so much, because it's such an incredible swerve, from doing coloring hair in a salon and using your soft skills and those technical details of your prior job, but now translating that into a corporate setting and having to learn all of the duties of a corporate job. The story is just so miraculous in that way, because it does show I don't just have to stay in that same job I've always done. I can make a huge pivot. I can change my entire life if I want to. But
Yes.
It takes work, and you're a testament to that.
Takes work and bold moves. Yes, I think change is always a good thing. I heard a quote one time that 10,000 hours, 10 years, you kind of master something. And somehow that's turned out to be my life. Every couple years I kind of have made a big change. And gosh, that's when you learn and grow and learn that you're capable of things you never thought you were.
Okay, Jenna, this has been like a dream of mine to have somebody so close to me and who has made such an evolution come on the podcast and share your story. I'm incredibly grateful that you're here today. Although I know it was uncomfortable, but did you get a little more comfortable as we went?
Yes, if I just didn't look at the computer recording us and looked at you, I was fine.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Okay, good. If people want to connect with you offline or off of the podcast, where do they go?
I'm on LinkedIn, Jenna Kolodziejczak.
Okay, great. Everybody go find Jenna on LinkedIn. I'm sure she would be happy to take any messages to encourage you on your bold moves journey. Jenna, before we leave, there's bubbly here, which we did not drink during the episode, but it's a good way to cheers to you and your bold move and your new dream job. I'm so freaking proud of you.
Thank you. And I'm so proud of you with your accomplishments and how much you've helped people. Like, thank you from the bottom of my heart.
And to everybody else, we're going to cheers.
Cheers to
Let's
you.
cheers to you
And your
future
bold
moves.